Alright, so today I'm going to make some coasters with my Infusible Ink pens. And as you can see, I have quite a few. If you are not familiar with Infusible Ink, what it is it is essentially like what's known as a sublimation ink. So it is an ink that when heated will turn into a gas under high heat, and then it infuses directly into the fibers of whatever material or blank you are using, you are trying to press things onto. There are limitations. Generally speaking, you need to use something that is 100% polyester, especially if you're doing clothing, to keep the colors like really true and bright. You can sublimate on blends, like cotton polyester blends, but you do need to have definitely more than 50% of that blend be polyester, and the higher the blend, the better. So, you know, like 80% and above, I would say would be your best bet. Now, there are things like these that, I mean, Cricut has a whole bunch of different sublimation blanks or infusible ink blanks. These are ceramic coasters that have like a special coating on them that allow you to use the infusible ink on these. You can also purchase mugs. There's pillow covers and cosmetic bags, and you know, there's just a ton. Cricut makes a whole bunch. They make t-shirts as well for both men, women, and children. And then there are a lot of other what would be called sublimation blanks that are available on, you know, places like Amazon and, you know, probably other vinyl and sublimation supply places. So in terms of the Cricut machines, I have a Maker and I have a Joy. So the Joy has its own set of pens. Now these are not all of them, these are a few of the ones I have. And then there are also Cricut Infusible Ink markers. This is the 1mm set. There are some like these that are a little bit chunkier. These would work in the Maker. The Joy ones work in the Joy. They don't intermingle. Now these are from We Are Memory Keepers, and then Artistry also has a line of sublimation markers. I have not tried these they will not fit in my Joy without an adapter, and I'm guessing they won't fit in the Maker without an adapter either. But there are adapters available through places like Etsy that would allow you to use different size markers. So that's what we're going to do today. And now let's go look at the software. Okay, I'm in Cricut Design Space, and I'm in a new project, so blank canvas, and you can hear my dog jingling his collar right now. Hopefully you don't mind. That may go on for a while. Anyway, I'm going to go over here on the left-hand toolbar to the upload icon over here. It's a cloud with an up arrow to upload an image. So that brings you into the upload screen. So I'm going to go to upload image. And then over in this screen, I will hit browse. And this is going to bring up a little window for your like your computer navigation. Okay, so if you download this zip file from me, which is free through January 31st, 2021, you'll see you'll get a CWPRJ file, which is a Brother Scan and Cut file, a PNG file, which is an image file, a Silhouette Studio document, which is for Silhouette Studio, and then this is an SVG file. Microsoft Edge is just taking over all my SVGs. But so this is the SVG here. And it'll probably say scalable vector graphic on your screen, unlike mine. So you just hit open on the SVG. You're going to get this error message that text elements cannot be imported. I don't know what this is, so I'm just going to hit continue because there are no text elements in this design. And that is an error message I get quite frequently in Design Space, so I'm not sure if that's just like a default message that they've now added. I don't know. But you'll see the images come up, You could rename it over here, and you can add tags if you want to, you know, be able to find it later, you know, like seasons or coasters or whatever. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to hit save. And then you get taken back to the upload screen, and it should be the first image on your left. So click on it to select it, like it highlights with a green box, and then go over to the lower right and hit insert images. And so that's going to insert the design into my canvas here. Now you'll see, because they're all selected, that these are kind of grouped together. Like if I click on one, it grabs all of them. So if we go over here to the right hand side and look at the layers panel, you'll see at the very top, that is like the main group of all 4 of them together. So I don't want that. I'm going to hit ungroup up here on the top to ungroup them. And then you'll see that each of the seasonal designs is grouped, and then the circles are separate. So the circles are really, for the purpose of the coaster, more of a placeholder or a template just for the size of the coaster. You could also use these designs, you know, for other things like stickers or t-shirts or something, and then I would leave the circles there because they're kind of cute. But in our instance, we don't need the circles, so we'll hide those in a second. But first, what I want to do, we're going to do the summer design here with the maker. So I'm going to click and drag over the circle and the coaster, and you'll see that the size right now is 4.375 by 4.375. Well, that's too big. For whatever reason, Design Space opens these at a larger size than what they were saved at, which, you know, isn't that unusual for these cutting programs. So we need to change that. So I just want to double check down here that my lock is locked, which it is, because I want the aspect ratio to stay the same for both the width and the height. So I'm going to go up here to the size box on the top toolbar, and under width I'm going to type in 3.5, and you'll see that the height changes to 3.5 also. 3.5 is basically the size of those coaster blanks that we're going to use. So that is how I sort of determined what size of the design needed to be to fit on those. All right, so that was kind of the main thing we needed to do with this. But now we need to hide the circle around it, because I don't want to print that. I don't want to have the machine draw it. I don't want that to be on my coaster. I just want the design. And then these other 3, I'm not going to do with the maker today. I'm just doing the summer one. You may or may not know that this has been a part of a series for me. So the other 3 designs I did with 3 different machines. So I will show you those at the very end of the video. Anyway, all right, let's go to this is the winter design. And if you look over here on the right, you'll notice that when I click on it, it's highlighted these gray, all of these layers. That's because each of those seasons is grouped together. So I will go over here, and if you see the eye icon here on the right, I'm going to click on that, and the design disappears, and you'll see there's like a slash mark through the eye. So that indicates that that is a hidden layer or hidden object, and that's what we want. We want to hide it. And so then we also want to go down here to the right underneath it is the layer for the circle for that design. So I'm going to do the same thing. And then I want to do the same thing for all of the other seasons and their circles. And I can even just do it this way. All right, and then if we go to this guy who's at the very top, or no, he's not, he's in the middle. We want to hide this circle. So I'm going to turn that circle off as well. All right, so now we just have the design sitting here. And our last step then is to click on it to select it, and then change the line type, because right now, if you look, it's set to cut, and cut is always sort of the default setting that things come up in Design Space. So to change that, we're going to go up here to line type in the upper left, click the drop down menu, and because I'm on my maker machine, I have quite a few options. I'm going to just click draw. So if you want to, you can change the color of the pen that you're using, and even the size of pen. If you want to, we will be using the 0.4 millimeter black Infusible Ink pen, so that kind of defaults to the correct thing. And our very last step is to click and drag to select it all, or just click it to select it since it is grouped. Go over here to the lower right, down here to the attach icon and click that. Basically, when you attach things together, what you're telling the machine is, or the software program, is that when you put it on the mat, after we hit make it, you need to keep it exactly as you see it here. And that is what we want. So I'm going to now go to make it over here in the upper right. And you'll see it shows up exactly as we saw it on the mat, and we just have only one mat and it just says draw. Now I'm going to move this design on here just a little bit. It always defaults into the upper left. I'm going to just move it down about an inch from the top and an inch from the left, just to give this a little bit of space around it, because we are going to need to cut this out after it's been printed and colored. So that gives a little space in order to do that. Let's just mirror it. Okay, so if we mirror it, then when we put it down on the coaster, it is going to look like it did when we brought it up on the design. Otherwise, it would be, you know, flipped backwards. Either way works really nicely, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we've got this set up correctly, so I'm going to hit continue. And at this point, you do need to make sure that your machine is turned on, because the next step is Design Space is going to try to contact your machine. All right, so it has contacted my maker, and now we just need to set the base material. Now, what you want is copy paper. If you don't have that favorited like I do, what you do is go over here to the right and hit Browse All Materials. And then it brings up all the materials that are available for your maker, and there's an extensive list. So what you want to do is scroll down to the paper section, as you see here, and you're going to pick a copy paper, because we're just using plain old-fashioned printer paper, nothing fancy, not heavy. You know, depending on the weight that you've got, you can pick different weights. Mine's pretty lightweight, so I'm assuming it's 20 pounds, so that's what I'm going to pick. And then hit done. Now the next step is to load your tools and materials. So it's going to tell you to load your black marker pen, really, into clamp A. We don't need anything in clamp B. And then we're going to load the mat and go from there. So at this point, I am going to head over to the machine. Okay, so I've got my maker here, and I've got the pen that I'm going to use, which is a just standard Cricut Infusible Ink marker. It is the 0.4 millimeter, and this comes out of the basic pack. All right, so we're just going to pull off the lid, the cap, and I'm going to go to clamp A, which is my first clamp here, and then put it down. Now you have to push it down until it snaps, like that, and then close the clamp. All right, now you do need a light grip mat. And the reason for that is because we are using just plain old regular copy paper, printer paper. A regular standard grip or strong grip mat is probably going to rip the paper when you try to pull it off. So that's why you need a light grip mat. Oops, like so. I'm a little crooked, but it's not going to matter because we know it's gonna print kind of in this area. Okay, so I'm going to load it in my mat. So I'm just fitting it under my little feeder there, and I'm going to hit my load mat button. And then in a second, there we go, the Cricut button will start to flash, and I will press that, which is basically the go button, and it will start drawing. So it's finished drying, and I'm just going to hit the unload mat button, and we'll see what we've got. And I would say it looks pretty good. So I wanted to point out, right, like here, you can maybe see a little bit there, a little bit there. I've sort of cleaned up a lot of this, but the machine does create these little extra dots, because when it colors, it's like dropping the pen down and then it draws a line. You know, so it creates this little extra dot when it starts a line. And those do kind of, they show up if you don't smooth them out. And even if you smooth them out, they can still show up. So just be aware of that. That is just the way that the Cricut machines draw things. So you will have that. Now you can see, like, I've just sort of gone in with this same marker that we drew the design with and have tried to smooth this out a little bit. As you can see, it does make some of the lines a little bit thicker, but that doesn't bother me. I kind of want this to look sort of hand-drawn. And then I did go down here and connect the lines of the bottom of the tree just to separate the tree from the trunk in those two spots. So now I'm just going to color the rest of the design in. Okay, so here's the colored image. It's going to look a lot duller right now than it will once we heat it and put it on the coaster. That is normal for sublimation ink, so just be aware of that. To fit it on the coaster, I am going to flip the coaster upside down, and then I'm going to do my best to fit it so that the sun here is correctly sort of running off the coaster. And then I need to secure it to the front of the coaster because I need to get it really flat when we heat it with the heat press. So I'm going to cut some slits in the bottom of this. I'll probably cut more as I go around, but I don't want to cut into the design. I just want to cut just outside of it. So when I fold this up around the coaster, those slits can overlap each other and the whole thing can lay flat. So to secure this to my coaster, I'm going to use this heat resistant tape. It does need to be heat resistant. Plain regular tape will melt, so you do not want to use regular tape. It will melt and ruin your whole project. So this is the Cricut brand. There's also, like, We Are Memory Keepers has some. There are plenty of other places that sell heat resistant tape. So I'm going to just basically line this up again and then tape it around. And I'll continue that all the way around until I've got it completely flat. Okay, I have taped my design here. I went a little nuts, but it is very important that the design be very flat when we heat it. So that's why I have so much tape around it. So my setup for heating this is my EasyPress 2. I do have the largest one. That's the only one I've got. So you could definitely do these with a smaller one. According to the Cricut website, to sublimate or use Infusible ink on these ceramic coasters, you need to set your temperature to 400 degrees for 240 seconds. Then for my heating surface, I have my EasyPress mat. I do have a towel under it, but that's just me trying to protect my table. Not sure it's necessary. Then I have 2 pieces of plain white cardstock. This is inexpensive cardstock that I got at Office Depot because it is going to get burned. Put the design face down. So, and then a piece of butcher paper or parchment paper over the top. And you want it to cover the entire heating press itself. All right, now another reminder is that with Infusible ink and any sublimation ink, if the design gets moved at all during the heating process, it can smear or do what is called ghosting. You don't want that. So it's very important that when I pick this up and set it down, I do it all in one motion, you know, like I set it down and just leave it. And then when I pick it up, I'm going to lift it straight up. We don't want to risk sliding it or bumping it at all while it's hot. So, here we go. Okay, it's almost done, so it's just really important, again, to avoid smearing, that I lift this straight up. So as soon as the beeper goes off, I'm going to lift it. Now, you want to remove the parchment paper or butcher paper right away. I don't know if you can tell, but it's super scorched. And the cardstock's pretty scorched too, as is my pad. This is really, really hot right now, so I am not going to touch it, move it, do anything with it until it has completely cooled. So that's going to be at least 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll unwrap and see what we got. Okay, it's completely cool. It's been about 45 minutes actually. Probably could have picked it up earlier than that. You can see that the ink has transferred to the paper, and that can happen, so that's why you want it to be a clean white cardstock. And I'm just going to kind of rip this off. But there it is. Oh, it looks cute. The design is more colorful and brighter now that it's been sublimated into the coaster, and the surface of that coaster is completely smooth. It looks super professional. Here's a quick look at the 4 coaster set that I've done in this series. If you're interested, I will link to the Cricut Joy video here as well as my Cricut playlist. If you got something out of the video, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment because I love getting comments, and you might subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Have a great day.